All right, in this video, we're going to take what we learned in the last video, which was phase one, where we were focusing on identifying what we're supposed to teach. And in this video, we're really going to focus more on this phase two of how to do the teaching. How are we, what's the most promising practice for how to design for online learning? And so let's just get started on this. And let's go. There we go. Important links here. First, we've got this link. Feel free to pause if you want to have access to the slides yourself. And really, all of this I'm talking about is going to be coming out of this information right here that I curated from a whole bunch of really smart resources and smart people, way smarter than me. I'm just kind of condensing it. And so let's get started. In the last video, we talked about using the lessons from Pakistan and Hurricane Katrina to figure out what we're supposed to teach. That's prioritizing our content. And in this video, we're really going to start pushing into how to future-proof our instruction. How do we design a lesson that is going to be hopeful in terms of maintaining student engagement? All right, and this is actually, there's going to be a few videos for how to future-proof our instruction. Today, it's phase two. Future-proofing our lesson design, largely with teacher-made videos. So let's get started. First, we're going to do a little bit of research. I want to share with you, so really, this model right here, this blue dashed line means it's kind of like student performance is exactly as we would have expected. So this is the baseline, right? And what the researchers did was they took evidence from Pakistan and Hurricane Katrina, and they watched what were the long-term effects of those students and their short-term learning shock, their shock to the educational system. And what they noticed in both Hurricane Katrina and in Pakistan, that students who lost just a short period of time of school, over time, that lost learning seemed to get worse and worse and worse, so that we can model in a similar way. So this is Brookings Institute. They've done some modeling to anticipate the learning loss that our current kids are going to experience. And this is based on the experience of Pakistan and Hurricane Katrina. And here's the bad news. What they noticed is that a student missing 3 months of instruction in third grade, by the time that student reaches 10th grade, that student will be a full grade lower than they would have been had there been no shock in the educational system. All right. And so that sounds pretty disheartening. But what they also discovered is it's not predetermined that a student has to experience this kind of long-term learning loss, because in both Pakistan and Hurricane Katrina, we noticed that with proper remediation and instructional strategies, a reorientation of how we teach, that those same students, those third graders who experienced a learning loss in third grade, could actually, by the time they're in 10th grade, be more than a full grade better than what they would have been had there been no shock in the educational system in third grade. So while this is what we can expect if we don't change the way we do business as teachers, that our students are going to experience long-term loss, but if we do a little bit of reorientation for how we teach, that our kiddos, by the time they reach 10th grade, will actually be better off than had there been no pandemic. Crazy, crazy to think of it that way. So what does effective remote instruction look like? First, a couple of key words, the words synchronous and asynchronous. This is crazy important with our distance learning environment that we're currently in. Synchronous means real time. Means all the students are engaged in the learning process at the exact same moment. Classrooms where all the kids are seated and they're listening to the teacher talk. That is an example of synchronous instruction. That's something that is happening in real time. All the kids are doing it at the same time. Asynchronous is like flex time, where students are going to engage in the learning process whenever they are able to find the time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in this time of COVID and distance learning, we really need to be thinking about doing as much of our instruction in the asynchronous mode. The importance of that is because we cannot always anticipate that the student is going to have functioning access to technology at a given moment, which means synchronous instruction is really relying on a student having access to a device, not sharing the Wi-Fi with a variety of siblings at home, and that everything is going to run smoothly. So that synchronous we're going to want to stay away from in terms of the initial instruction as much as possible. Our initial instruction we're going to want to be asynchronous, which creates the flexibility and the access and the equity that allows kids to get the instruction when they have the technology that allows them to do so. Now, synchronous is still going to be important, but synchronous is going to be provided on an ongoing basis as the student is able to log in. So we're going to talk more about this in a little bit, but basically synchronous is in real time, asynchronous is in flex time. And here is the three components of what awesome online instruction should look like. First, we're going to have some blended instruction. And really, we want students to access the new content through teacher-created videos and UDL-infused online instruction. And there's the word, asynchronous. We want that instruction to largely be asynchronous, which creates the flexibility of the student being able to log in and access that content whenever the Wi-Fi and the technology allows. We're going to want to do teacher-made videos and UDL-infused online instruction. This video today, right now, is largely going to focus on the teacher-created videos. The UDL-infused portion, we're going to talk about that in another video. After we do the blended instruction, by the way, that blended instruction is blended meaning we're going to provide a variety of ways for the student to access the content. A video, audio, text, poetry, interactive applets, simulations. That's what we mean by blended instruction. Blended instruction in this instance does not mean some of it's remote, some of it's hybrid, some of it's face-to-face. That's not the kind of blended we're talking about. We're going to be talking about providing a variety of ways for the student to access the information. Then a good online instruction system would have some element of self-paced structure. We need to give students some autonomy to customize their learning path and their pace and their place and their time, some element of control which allows students to, on their own, customize how much time is going to be devoted to the learning loss from past year, plus how are we going to accelerate the learning that is going to need to happen this year. And then the third component of awesome online instruction is how do we assess students? And really, we're going to think about mastery-based assessment. We're going to probably stay away from that old idea of quizzes and paper and pencil tests and all that sort of stuff. That's kind of hard to manage in an online environment. So really what we're going to do is we're going to focus on mastery-based assessment, where students are provided a variety of ways to demonstrate their understanding through videos or a project and stuff like that. So that's the three basic components of good online instruction. But all of this is on a foundation of constant synchronous check-ins with the teacher. So while the student is accessing content asynchronously and is going through it in some ways on his own path in his own time, doing his own demonstration of understanding, all of that's kind of asynchronous. But down here, every day, ideally, the student is going to be able to have multiple opportunities to synchronously check in with the teacher in real time, for the teacher to provide to the student's social and emotional needs, provide tutoring as needed, additional academic intervention. And really, it's the time for the teacher to build relationships with his students, and to do this in a way where we're prioritizing a lot of student-to-student conversation. All right, so we need both asynchronous and synchronous, but the asynchronous is largely devoted to that instruction, whereas the synchronous is largely devoted to the social and emotional needs and relationship building. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to start with blended instruction, and blended instruction involves a lot of stuff, but primarily we're going to start with just focusing on teacher-created videos in our next lesson, in our next video. So right now I just wanted to give you an overview, and in our next lesson we're really going to dig into teacher-created videos.